Okay, so let's talk about racing the 800 meters today. Coach Jason here from Top Line Running. Hope you're doing well. There's a couple different types of 800-meter races that, in my experience, I've seen on a regular basis, and the different types of runners who happen to run the 800 basically run, and the tactics that they like to employ in these races. And I want to go over it with you, and I want to get your thoughts on it. Again, if you're a coach or an athlete, please make sure you're subscribed to this channel. About two-thirds of the people who watch the videos here are not subscribed, so I definitely appreciate it. And we can talk about anything you want. I'm probably going to do an 800-meter live stream as well to go over these types of things, which I think is an important thing to talk about. And I will be able to answer any questions live time. So if you're a coach or an athlete, please make sure you're subscribed. Make sure your notifications are turned on. That way, when I go live, you'll know exactly when I do it. My next live stream is going to be a half marathon training program. So, and again, so I'm speaking as a former competitive runner and a coach of the last 2+ decades. I've coached at the high school, college, and post-collegiate level at every distance you can think of. Okay, I want to share as much knowledge with you as possible. We've got 500 videos on this channel that we could talk about any one of them. More than happy to. So my email address, blackbeltrunningcoach@gmail.com. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Okay, again, it's blackbeltrunningcoach@gmail.com. Okay, now a couple different types of races. Okay, number one is go out, and let's just use 2 minutes as the magic number. 2 minutes, sub 2 minutes. I want to break 2 minutes, right? The first type of race is go out and just blast it from the gun, right? Go out hard. And I've noticed a lot of folks who want to try to break 2 minutes go out in 54, 55, which is fast, okay? One of the things I always talk about is trying to close that positive split in the 800. If there is a positive split, no more than 2 to 3 seconds. So instead of going out 54, 55, let's just say you go out, and let's just say 54 also, you go out in 26, you come back in 28. Okay, that's still fast. Okay, let's just say we go out in 57 now. 58, and you come back in 60 or 61, broken 2 minutes. And when I say 58, I don't mean 26:32. I mean 29:29. Why is that? Well, a couple different things, okay? You know, with 400 meters, there are 4 laps indoors with tighter turns. There's 2 laps outdoors with wider turns, but you absolutely have to have a high level of situational awareness because you do not have a lot of time to make adjustments. So how you position yourself in the beginning of an 800-meter race is very, very important. Okay, setting yourself up in the first 200. Okay, let the other people who go out fast come back to you instead of you being the one that goes out way too fast and comes back to them. Why? Because it gives you an opportunity to tuck in where you want to tuck in, put yourself in a good spot so that when the time comes in the next 400 meters, right, setting yourself up for the final 200, that middle part of the 800 race, you can maneuver where you want to maneuver. You can set yourself up and put yourself in a position to not have to try to pass people on the turns. You can pass people on the straightaways. It's easier to do that and set yourself up to try to outkick the people in the front of the pack instead of the back of the pack. So positioning is very important. So I understand go out hard from the gun. I get it. And that tends to be a little bit more applicable for folks that are more speed oriented. 400-meter folks who step up to the 800, or 800-meter folks who go step down and run a 4x4, right? Who have a lot more natural speed than your milers or step down, your 3K runners or step down, and so on. Totally makes sense, okay? And that is a race tactic or a type of race that happens on a regular basis. I see it all the time, okay? And it's a natural thing. But again, if you notice that people who go out too fast, if they're not fit enough, they will come back to people. And that's the question to ask. Are you fit enough? Are your athletes fit enough to do that? Which leads me to the second component, the second type of race, the evenly run race, which is more suitable for what? Your half milers who happen to be a little bit more distance oriented, right? Or even half milers who have a good amount of leg speed as well, but who just run a different type of race. Okay. And now you're setting yourself up to 58, 59, 59, 59, so on and so forth. And like I said, if you go out in 29, 29 instead of 26, 32, that's a much better 58-second first 400 than the other way around, right? Again, sets you up to maneuver in that third 200, to put yourself in a position because you won't be tired. You'll have less lactic in your legs than a lot of other people will have in their legs, right? And how do you, and this is something I encourage a lot of folks to consider. I talk about this a lot on this channel and on my TikTok is you want to run better than 800, you have to get better in the mile. Okay. I talk about it. So you're looking to break 2 minutes, you want to be under 4:30 in the mile. How do you get under there if you're not there? Are you, and the questions to ask is, are you doing tempo runs? Are you doing threshold workouts? Are you doing VO2 max work? Which for 800-meter purposes is generally 3K pace stuff. You're doing 600 at 3K pace, 800 at 3K pace. It's essentially a 1-to-1 work ratio. So if you're doing, let's just say 800-meter reps in 230, you take a 230 rest. You want to get to maybe 4 of those if you can. Okay. So just a thought. If you're doing 600s, you're doing 151, 152 with a 2-minute recovery. Do 5 of those, maybe 6. That's a good VO2 max strength session, which will help in turn get stronger in the mile. And I'm going to talk about race tactics for the mile as well as 800, and we'll move it up in the other distances too. But I wanted to talk about this today, okay, which also leads me to the third type of race, your sit and kick race, okay? Sit and kick is fine. That's a different, and this is a race I see all the time, especially in American track and field, where a lot of folks will sit and kick. But the questions are, number one, are you fit enough to tap into the speed when you need to tap into it? Okay. This is another reason why I do speed development for distance runners every week, every single week. Okay. You need to be able to tap into it when you need to. And nobody cares what you do in the first 200 meters of an 800-meter race. We care what you do in the last 200 meters. Sometimes people need to move from 300. Sometimes people move from 50 out, 100, 150. It doesn't really matter. If you're fit and you have a well-balanced training program with strength work and speed and 800-meter specificity, then you're putting yourself in a position to either make a move yourself or counter the moves that other people make. Which is why I wanted to just plant this seed in your head. I want you to think about this. So number one, again, you go out super hard from the gun. But are you strong enough to either outkick the people at the end or slow down less than everybody else at the end or maintain pace? If you maintain pace and don't let people outkick you and you're already ahead of the people you want to be ahead of, can you maintain that? Can you keep that until the end? Which is why I can't emphasize enough, getting better in the mile will serve you tenfold to running a better 800. Okay, and make it easier to tap into the speed that you've been developing all year round. Okay, it's like baking a cake. It's kind of a corny analogy, but I mention this a lot. Can you put frosting on a cake that you haven't baked yet? No, you can't. Right? They have to merge together. You bake the cake, you plant it, you put it together, then you put the icing on it. Icing here is the final 100, the final 150, the final 200. Right? And the things that you do leading up to that point. Okay, and I have a lot of 800-meter workout videos on this channel, a lot of mile workout videos on this channel. I would encourage you, coaches and athletes, to watch all of them. Okay, to give you an idea, some perspective. I have stuff on here, VO2 max. I have stuff on here, thresholds, tempos, how to build tempos from scratch, how to build threshold workouts from scratch, VO2 max stuff. Okay, how they complement the 800, how they complement the 800 in the mile, how they complement the 800 and 400. And again, if you're an 800 runner who happens to come back later on and either runs the 4x4 or goes up and runs the DMR 1200 meter leg or another 800 or the 4x8, you've got to be fit enough to be able to come back and run a second good race. So what you do in the training has got to be consistent. It's got to be balanced. So that if you think about these races, and the other thing too is when these races happen, you don't really have time to think and say, oh my God, what do I do? You have to react in an 800-meter race, especially if it's under 2 minutes. You do not have a lot of time. Like I said, it's got to be a high level of situational awareness. And how do you tap into that? You have to be fit enough in order to do it. You've got to be sharp enough in order to do it. If you over race, that could be at the expense of your sharpness. Okay, that's up to coaches to decide what they want to do. I can't speak for other coaches and athletes. Okay, but you can race yourself into shape. You can also race yourself out of sharpness. Okay, if you race too much, you can run your best races probably too early in the season. And you want to be at your best when it counts the most, right? That's when college coaches are looking for athletes who can come through when it matters. right? They don't care. And I've coached at college. I don't really care who. Oh man, he was the best. He was really good at dual meets early in the season. She was really great at these dual meets. No one cares about that. We care about what you do in the championships. This is real talk for coaches. Okay, real talk for coaches. You may not like hearing some of this, but it's true. And again, what's most important is the development of the athletes, their health and well-being, setting them up to run well, setting them up to be successful. Okay, and be successful. Run up in distance, move down in distance. Be versatile. The more versatile you are, the more versatile your athletes are going to be, the better off they're going to be, the more valuable they're going to be for themselves and for their teams. Okay. So, again, just to sum this up, you got your go out super hard from the gun. You have your evenly running. Okay. Trying to cut down that positive split, if there is a positive split of no more than 2 to 3 seconds. How do you do it? You've got to be fit enough. You've got to be stronger in the mile. You have to have a sufficient foundation behind you. Okay. And then lastly, a sit and kick. Are you fit enough to tap into your speed? Because you never know when you're going to have to. Somebody might just come out of nowhere and kick at 300 meters out. Are you ready to respond to that? Okay. What tells you if you're ready? Your fitness, your training. So, something to think about, gang. Have a great season. I'll talk to you next time.